What's up, guys? Matt here with Matco Metalworks again, and just as I promised, we're going to get started with some live welding. If you're following along, watching our previous videos, I showed you the setup on the Multimatic 215 Miller, and I show you the gas, and so we're going to get started with some basic welding processes, procedures, I guess, with the MIG. And first thing you're going to do is learn how to do butt joints, lap joints, and T-joints. And whether you're going to school, 2-year degree for like an associate's degree, or you're just a trade school taking a couple classes or a weekend thing, that's probably going to be what they start you out with. I know the trade school I went to, that's what we did a lot of T-joints, whether it was TIG welding, stick welding. You're running T-joints, running some plates, running lap joints, butt joints. That's the first thing you do just to get you going, learning how to run beads, learning how to watch the puddle, learning to react on what it does, your speeds, how fast you move, the angle you hold your gun, and so forth. So we're gonna get started with that. I'm gonna show you how to tack these together. And what I've got is just some 3/16 flat bar, 1¼ inch flat bar. And you can use anything. That's a little thick, but that's what I had. I had some drops. So instead of cutting new stuff, try to, always use your drops and scraps to practice on. So we'll get dressed up and get our PPE on, and we'll get started here. All right, like I said, always try to use scraps, drop pieces, leftover stuff. Keep you a 5-gallon bucket, throw them in it. It's great for having, for practicing. Even if you're an experienced welder, you've been welding for 10 years, you're always gonna have to set your welder up, because if you're welding, say, 16 gauge material and you go to 3/16, you're gonna be a little different. So you don't wanna, say you've got a project and you've got to make absolute flawless, pretty welds. You want to practice, because if it was set up for 16 gauge or 18 gauge spot welding, and you're getting it ready to run 6-inch long beads on some 1/4 inch material or 3/16, you're going to want to practice just a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying you sit here and run beads all day, but you want to get it set and make sure your heat's correct, make sure it's going to flow nice and make nice, pretty welds for like a finished product or something. So you want to make sure you got some scraps. So that's what these are, just some drops we have left over for one of our projects. So we'll get these set up, and what I'm gonna do is we'll set this up, and I'm just gonna put it on auto. We're running 030 wire, 3/16. So we'll set it up, and we're gonna be at 18.5 volts and 284 on the wire speed. So you're all set up, you got your gas on. Of course, you forget your MIG pliers. Always have a set of these. I don't know the cost of these. I've got a couple pairs. You can buy these at your welding supply store, home improvement place, Lowe's or Home Depot sells them. I'm gonna guess 10 to 20 bucks, something like that. But they're multi-purpose, so you're gonna have 3 different things on here, actually 4 different things you can use them for. The biggest thing is you have that wire sticking out. So if you have that sticking out, you can't start. And a lot of people, when it aggravates me, they'll tack it on the edge of the table. Next thing you know, the whole table is lined up with little pieces of wire, and it drives me insane. So you're gonna use it to clip the wire. That's all you want sticking out. But at the same time, it can also be used, you'll see the little rounded piece here. Well, that's where that fits. So that's used to turn that, to snug it, to tighten it or whatever. This one's a slip-on, so you don't need that. But for ones that are threaded, some of these are threaded inside, and they'll actually screw on, and so you'll use it for that. Then it's also got a slot here at the top, just above the cutters, that you can use for your tips. You want those to be snugged on. And a lot of times they'll get hot and get kind of stuck. So you take that, and it's just like a pair of pliers, and loosen it, or you can take it all the way off. And then of course you've got the end. If you squeeze them together, you can use them to clean out your nozzle. You want to keep all that spatter out of there. So 4-in-1 pliers, I guess they're called, but they're spring loaded, and definitely got to have a pair of those. So what we're gonna do, get this nozzle put back on. We're just gonna make, like I said, T-joint here. So you can see it's shaped like a T. If you turn it upside down, that's why it's called a T-joint. But flat part on the bottom, all you're gonna do is just center that up, tack it on each end. Make sure it's halfway straight. Doesn't have to be perfect. Like I said, you're just practicing. Get it straightened up, get it tacked. So that's your T-joint, and then we're gonna do a lap joint. So a lap joint's gonna look like that. You're just gonna overlap it about halfway. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. And you're gonna overlap it just like that. And same thing, just tack it at each end. You can hear this spitting a little bit. It's got some paint. You can see this is the end of a stick, a 20-foot stick. It's got some paint on it. Most of your steel is going to have something like that, but just kind of get it tacked. So there you got your T-joint, your lap joint, and the last one is just going to be a butt joint. This one's a little shorter. This is a 1/4 inch piece. This is 3/16, but not a big deal. All you're going to do is tack, and you can leave a little space there too if you want. Makes it a little bit easier, like a little 16th gap or something. Well, let's flip that over. That's got a little too much paint on that side. So we'll just flip that over. Spin it around. Okay, so we're all set up. We've got our lap joint, our T-joint, and our butt joint ready to run some welds. We've got the Multimatic 215 Miller welder set up on auto mode, 030 wire, and 3/16 material. So it's already set up. Like I said, we're at 18.6 volts and 284 inches per minute on the wire speed. And basically that's what it's telling us to be at. I can fluctuate that a little bit, but that's exactly where it tells us to be to start with, and we can adjust from there as needed. So something else you may want to use, anti-spatter. And what this does is this is going to help with anytime you MIG or stick weld, you're going to have spatter that comes off and it sticks to the area around the weld. So this helps to keep it from sticking to where you can't get it off or you have to grind it off. So a lot of times you spray this on it, you know, coat an inch or two outside the weld area, and then when you get done, you just take a chisel or something and slide it across it, and the spatter just pops right off. So you don't need it for this, but I do like to put it on the table just to keep from spatter. This is our new table, so keeps from getting stuff stuck all over the table. So let's we'll do the T-joint first, and what I'm going to do is just run a bead, and I'm going to make small circles. You can do circles, you can do half moons, you can run a straight bead, but I'm going to show you the processes I use and just basic guide to get you started, and then from there you're going to have to learn or teach yourself different movements depending on thickness of material, how slow or fast you need to go, what temperature you're running. But I'm going to show you the basics and get you started just with some circles to get you the feel of running the bead, and then of course the speed in which you move your gun. So what you're looking at here is the T-joint. And when you're first starting out, you don't want to try to run that whole bead. I mean, you can, but it's, you know, you just want to kind of learn how to run beads. So, you know, 2 to 3 inches is plenty. This is about 8 inches long. And like I said, if you want to run it, you can, but just starting out, run 2 to 3 inch long beads, get the feel of it. And you see how you've got the circles in here? I'll try to zoom in so you can see that. And there you can see the little circles is what I was doing there. And it's kind of hard for you to see when I'm welding, but you can't see me moving. So I'll try to mock that up and show you. So basically, you've got your T-joint here, and I've got it going, and then all you're doing is making little circles. So you go out, away from the puddle, circle back in, out, away from the puddle, circle back in. And you can see I'm only probably moving at most 3/16 of an inch from the top to the bottom. All right, so up next is our lap joint. And basically this is, as you can see the end of it there, just 2 pieces overlapped about halfway. Just simulates having to overlap some metal, whatever the thickness may be, and having to weld them together at the seam. So I'm gonna try to get this the best position I can. It's really gonna be hard for you to see the movement, but I'll simulate it here again. Just like in the T-joint, we're gonna make half circles. And what I wanna do is I wanna watch that puddle. And I'm gonna roll that puddle or control my speed and my movement so the puddle breaks that top edge on this top plate here. So that top edge that you see, I don't want my puddle to go up past that. And the same thing, I'm moving 1/8 to maybe 3/16 of an inch just up and down. And that's it, I'm gonna go all the way along. As always, like I said, you wanna cut that so you don't have a bunch sticking out.
Watching that puddle roll up that top edge and down and up.
So if I can zoom in here, you'll see just rolled up on that top edge, and I was concentrating more on that, and you can kind of see I've got probably a little too quick on that bottom side, but you see I just rolled that weld up on that top edge, and it didn't break it, didn't melt it a bunch. Nice clean weld. So that's what you want it to look like on your lap joints. You just want to have a nice smooth edge and just barely come up to that top, that tip right there on that corner. You want to roll that puddle all the way up. So this one will probably be a little easier for you to see as you look down over top of this one. It's flat. This is your butt joint. Just once again simulates putting 2 pieces of metal together end to end, whereas you had this one, it's the lap joint, you know, they're lapped over top of each other. This one, you've just got pieces end to end. So what we're gonna do is just run a bead, same thing. I'm gonna make the circles, and we're just gonna go all the way down on this one since it's a little shorter, and make just a little movement. So it's probably a little cold on the temperature. I could probably go up just a little bit. Didn't quite get the penetration. Probably could have gone just a hair slower and turned the speed up, the heat up just a little bit, and that would have flattened out. You can see it needs to flatten out on this side just a little bit. So there you've got 3 different welds to start out with: your T-joint, your lap joint, and your butt joint. And like I said, you just mainly, your main focus when you start, your number one priority is to make sure you have penetration. Because if a weld, I don't care how good it looks, if it doesn't hold together and serve a purpose, it's not any good. So your number one goal, of course, is going to be penetration and making those 2 pieces of metal stick. With practice and time and doing this over and over, then you're going to get to where you can make really good, clean, pretty welds, and along with the penetration. But like I said, you have to learn. The sound is going to play a big part of it. You can tell a lot by the sound, whether you've got your amperage right, your volts, and your wire speed. So what I did, like I said, I left it at 18.6 and 284 on the wire speed. That's auto set. That's in the bullseye or for this machine. And if I wanted to, I could adjust it up here, up or down. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn it up just a little bit. I'm gonna go back on the T-joint and turn it up just a little bit. We're gonna go from 18.6 to 19. And we're just gonna see if it spreads out just a little bit, give it just a little more heat here. And I'm about 45 degrees as far as my angle of my gun here. I'm 45 degrees to the table. And I'm actually pulling. Pushing would be, and you can do that as well in certain situations. If you wanted to go this way, that's a push, and this is a pull. So I'm pulling in what I'm welding today. Now I went just a little bit slower, but did have the heat, so you can kind of tell it spreads out just a little bit better. You got a little better flow, but if you listen to it, you hear that really nice solid buzz. The only variation here is just me moving, but it's just a nice steady buzz. That way, that's when you're really close on your settings. It's not spitting. It's not your wire speed's not affecting it. So you're not spitting or needing more wire or less wire. Got a good heat, good flow, and it gives that nice steady buzz. All right, so we're back on the lap joint here, and what I'm gonna do on this one, I wanna show not the circles, but the half moons. And when I say that, instead of going in circles like this, you're gonna go down to the bottom and up in half moon shape. And I know it's really hard to tell on this, just watching the video, and it's kind of something when you pick your welding gun up, you'll kind of imitate just a half moon shape, back and forth, up and down. Instead of going in complete circles, I'm just going half moon.
Nice buzz, nice smooth sound. Lets me know I'm really close on my settings.
See the difference? Now I've got a little more heat. I was at 18.6 here on the circles, and then 19 here on the half moon. So You get it just a little bit better flow, helps it smooth out, takes out some of that little bit of undercut I had. So you can definitely tell a difference there. So it's probably easier for me to draw this out and show you the two different movements I just went over. So you've got your full circles and your half moon. So just pretend this is your welding rod or your welding, your MIG gun. You're gonna make full circles. Of course, you're lapping back over that previous weld. Like I said, you heard me in the video, I said out of the puddle, back into the puddle. Out of the puddle, circle back into it. Out and back in. So you're making those full circles. And same thing, same concept, but now down here, you've got your half moon. So you're gonna start here, go up with your wire and back down. And the whole time you're making progress this direction because you're pulling, but you're up and down. Half moons, up, down. All right, guys, well, there you have it. There's your 3 different joints that you're gonna start out with to learn and to practice. You've got your T-joint, your lap joint, and just your butt weld. If you're gonna choose one of these, I would say take the T-joint. It's a little easier to learn. You're not worried about the top edge of this. You just go in there and run some beads. If you wanna start doing multi-pass and stuff, we can work on that later. But for now, just run beads. You can do it on just a flat piece of metal or set you up a T-joint or lap joint, whatever. But it's gonna take a lot of practice, guys. I can't tell you how many of these I did when I was in school 20 years ago, but every process is the same. Whether it's TIG, stick, or MIG, you're gonna start out with these different joints. And it just teaches you the basic process. It's great to have a welder like this, the Multimatic 215. It's got an auto feature. Otherwise, you're gonna have to, figure out the settings and of course go to your chart inside the welder for that. But that'll hopefully get you started, get you running some beads. You know how to set the welder up, know how to turn it on, how to put the wire in and stuff, get your gas on, and then set these different joints up and get to running some beads. That's the thing, you just gotta get in there and do it. Make sure you got your PPE on, get you a good welding helmet, and you'll be ready to go. So if you got any questions, feel free to ask, email me, comment below. This is for beginners, of course. If you're experienced welder, this is not really gonna help you, other than the fact of maybe on these lap joints, if you've got some issues with rolling that top edge or something like that. But for the most part, it's for beginners, and hopefully this will help you out. So like I said, you got any questions, feel free to ask. Click the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next video.